Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Redline Racing Network. It is Saturday night in primetime, which means the Dynasty Racing League Winter Series here in the Northeast, where they have been buried in with snowfall. However, that is not going to savor or ruin the flavors that iRacing.com pace car pulls off. Good-looking crowd here tonight. Green flag in the air, and Taylor Butcher Benjamin is going to put it through the floorboards as green flag in the air. 78 was really exploring that low line. He came right off the racetrack, right onto the apron there. And it is a John Moore special down the backstretch. These guys getting after it early. I can't remember the last time I seen someone actually using the apron as part of the racing groove. However, that is perfectly legal here. We're not at Talladega or Daytona. I mean, you can go all the way down there if you want to, and he is kind of making it work right now, especially on some fresh Goodyear Eagles. Not that there's much banking to work with here at this racetrack either. In fact, he's going to have the advantage going into the turns 1 and 2 complex. This is an incredible piece of driving here early by Kyle Gray. I'm almost rendered speechless as he is going to make the pass on TBB. Just when you thought you've seen it all. I mean, the 78 is putting so much wheel in that race car. The back end is almost stepping out. Looks like he's partially drifted the corner there on entry, and he is checking out. Already opened it up almost 0.6 of a second. Is Kyle Gray going to slot one position to the good? Taylor Butcher Benjamin, your pole sitter, now residing in that second place position. And the man that has been on a roll as of recent, that Richard Petty inspired 42 machine piloted by Gary Farnsworth Jr., continues to find the mojo in that Pontiac. As he rounds out your top three, Brandon Broby, longtime seasoned veteran in DRL, runs in fourth. And Mr. Excitement inside of that 8 machine, Donald Hickson Jr., always in the conversation, already up 3 positions to the good. In fact, right around James Pandolf from Bad Luck Racing hopes to have some good luck in the Move Crew. Ooh. As he found the spot where the Waffle House dumped the bacon grease, the back end almost went out to lunch on him. And that's going to open the door for Ken Robnett to take a peek on the inside here. They're 2x2 side-by-side Noah's Ark situation here at the start-finish line. JP went way up the hill there, gave him plenty of room. A lot of give and take being shown, displayed by these drivers right now. Again, it is early in this one. Can't win it on lap 1. You have to survive to be alive and have a piece. That can go out there and contend to put that thing in victory lane at the end. And part of the equation to doing that is giving plenty of room out there on the racetrack here in the early going. And that's exactly what James Pandolf did there. Did not want to put himself in a bad situation, as Lady Luck at times has not been on his side throughout the course of this winter series as he continues to run in that 7th place position. Let's take a quick peek at the weather this evening. Throw that up on the big screen for all you loyal fans at home. Again, sim time almost 1 p.m., clocking in at 12:41. Wind is a factor here as it's 7 to 8 miles an hour and could be gusting 10 to 12 at times. Ambient air temperature 74 degrees. And again, this is not real world weather temperature. If it was, that would be one heck of an anomaly up there in the Northeast. As I mentioned, top of the broadcast, they have been hammered with snow. 56% water drain, partly cloudy skies, and that track temp is a hot one as it nears the century mark at 97 degrees. So tire fall off is going to be a factor here, especially when you're in this Gen 4 car making all the horsepower and torque that it does. Go ahead and throw the ticker up as well so you followers at home can follow along. Changing up the color scheme a little bit. Since it is the holiday season at all, why not throw some lime racing green in there? As we continue to watch this battle between 4th, 5th, and 6th, just up the road from James Pandolf. Tell you what, this is a slugfest right now between the 09 of Robnet and that Tops Friendly Markets Dodge. Then you got Hicks in there on the outside and that Budweiser 8, and Brandon Broby right where he doesn't want to be. In fact, let's send it down trackside and go on board with the driver of the 08 Bud Machine. I mean, this is World War II trench warfare at its finest here at New Hampshire right now. You have to be very gingerly when you put the pedal down here in this race car. And you don't have the help, the aid of any banking in the corner. This racetrack is just about as flat can be. There's a little bit of banking, but not much. I think it's in the wheelhouse of 3 degrees. You see that car get a little loose there as he throws a lot of corrective wheel in there, just flicks the wrist. A lot of brakes here, going to jump on the binders as he's going to slide it up to the top shelf of the racetrack. And you got to be careful with that seam as the 08 got up close and personal. And that seam I'm talking about is right here where you have this darker patch of asphalt here in the bottom 2 lanes. And then we go up to the high side of the racetrack. That is older asphalt. The grip level is different between those 2 pieces of real estate on the racetrack, and that can certainly make that car unhappy and get out of shape, especially if you have your lefts on one part of it and the rights on the other. As these drivers now continue to battle for that 6th place position. Beautiful pass there by Ken Robnett. I mean, that is textbook how to pass here at New Hampshire. I mean, he sent it in deep, living on a prayer, Bon Jovi style. Going to jump on the binders, and when he slid up the racetrack, he made sure he had room to clear. As he continues to go on the charge here again, 45 of Broby has VIP tickets for this battle. We're going to stay right here as he goes back down to the apron. I love the aggressiveness out of the 9 here. I mean, he's doing what Kyle Gray was doing earlier. So, hey, the thought process is, hey, if you can do it, I can do it too. .23 laps out of the 150 here complete this. The best battle on the racetrack right now. Just inside the top 5. 42 got pinched there a little bit. That's going to open up the bottom lane here for Broby. Because he's now going to send it in there. Just wondering if there's going to be some tire saving going on here in the early going. Is this league famous for its long green flag runs? But hey, when you're close corner battling like this, tire saving kind of goes out the window. Send it back up to the front. It's been all the lean, mean Kyle Gray using every inch of this racetrack, and he's still going down to the flatlands. Don't want to use the grass, though. That is not going to be your friend in that MPI Chevrolet. as he's opened up about a 1.4-second advantage over your pole sitter, Taylor Butcher Benjamin. And this lie that he is using is just a geological oddity. Quoting the great Darrell Waltrip when he went for a ride, an Australian V8 supercar. If you've never seen that video from about 13 years ago, go check it out on YouTube. It is worth the 5 minutes. Some of the best commentary you'll ever hear from inside the cockpit of a race car. 26 laps officially written here in the history books. That means we're going to do our first all-out, wide-open coverage right here on Redline Racing Network. Feel free to crank it up. Race fans, welcome back to New Hampshire. Is caution out on the Speedway? A rarity here in the DRL Winter Series. Hopefully no one ran over Lobby the Lobster. As if you guys didn't know, typically a live fresh lobster given to the winner of this race as a trophy. And he is big, the size of a submarine. Looks like, oh, I was just talking about a moments ago from Bad Luck Racing. I'm telling you, JP's got to change the name of his team as he uncorks buckets of it. Here as we go back to the instant replay, what is went wrong here as we roll playback? Again, keep an eye on that 74 Moo Crew machine, dead center of your screen. As timing and scoring indicated, he was the one involved here. However, all looks well. He gave it too much mojo coming out of the corner. Overcorrects it. He's in the death slide right now. He's going to come up and he's going to tail slap the fence here. What a great save after that was looking like certain death. Evasive action there by Stoney Benfield as the centimeter got kicked up there inside the cockpit of his race car. But other than a tail slap, JP's just going to skim the fence. 8 times out of 10, when that happens here at New Hampshire, I mean, it's a speed date with that safer barrier, usually head on. And JP was able to kick that car in the other direction and barely come up and just snag a piece with the rear of that race car. No one else involved here. However, that is going to throw the caution out there on the racetrack. We cycle back here to the live side of things. First caution on the day here in the DRL Dynasty, the DRL Winter Series. We're going to step aside, pay some bills, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with all the high-flying, high-octane racing action right here on Redline Racing Network, and perhaps a special guest joining me in the book for the second half of this race. evening, race fans. Welcome back to Redline Racing Network. As it is Saturday night in prime time, and that's the right time for DRL to light up the racetrack as we're in the middle of a dogfight here at New Hampshire. And joining me now for the first time on Saturday night, we tried it earlier this week. Hopefully tonight will be a little more successful. A driver that needs no introduction, the master of getting more out of the Gen 4, Bryce B. What's going on, my man?
Doing great tonight. Pleasure to be here. Looking like we got a great show here. Sorry to show up here a little later than I wanted to. Actually wanted to partake in this race, but glad to be here nonetheless.
Hey, glad you can make it, and thrilled to have you up here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial broadcast booth. And again, you have a lot of seat time across the iRacing.com servers, an ace in this Gen 4 car. Also, you have experience out here with these guys on the racetrack. And Bryce, take a look who's leading. Taylor Butcher Benjamin in that 88 machine. No surprises, he's out there carrying the torch. What impresses you about this guy, the way he attacks the racetrack?
Natural, you know, he's attacking this track really at the most natural point around each corner. I'm watching these guys behind him, actually really surprised to see them taking the Gen 4 car down below the apron. Really cool to see. You know, I'm flipping and sliding there on that lane just above the paint there, and they're going below that paint, so it's blowing my mind the amount of car control these guys can have doing what they're doing back there. But yeah, watching Butcher Benjamin up here, he's just running that natural line wherever the car wants to go, and that's really all you got to do with these cars. More cars out here that can more of the time, if you can let the car do what it wants to do and just help it around the track, you're really gonna have no problem getting around here. Also with speed as well.
You know, and that's a great point. It certainly looks like he has that car on a slot out there on the racetrack at Channel, like that race set you used to have as a kid back in the day. However, you know it's a lot more than that. Throttle control, your braking points, oh so critical here. You know, and to your point about Ken Robnett there, that Tops Market Dodge just behind him, you know, you said it was blowing your mind. I couldn't believe it either when he was really utilizing all of the racetrack, going down to the flatlands like he is right now.
Again. Right behind him, too. They're following suit. I mean, he's really not losing much ground, so it's catching me by surprise. He's finding something there, obviously.
It's almost like they took some of the sticky stuff and threw it down there on the apron. You know,
I think it's all the tires burning up down there. I think that's where the sticky stuff's coming from.
I'll tell you what, Ken Robnett, or Kyle Gray, the 78, who runs in that third place position, he was the first driver to venture down there right on the drop of the green flag. And
look how low they're getting. That's insane. And cut you off. It's incredible.
It is. It was blowing my mind. You know, I was scraping my floor off the broadcast booth watching these guys do it. You know, and I guess the one thing you have to worry about going down there is you're flirting with disaster, walking a fine line between the apron and the grass. And as you know, you get your tires in that loose stuff, I mean, you're going to be hanging on for the ride in a matter of moments.
Loose stuff? I'm talking about that lane right above the paint is the loose stuff, and they're going down below it.
We're on the same page.
It's incredible to watch. Really, it is.
It is. In fact, you know, Ken Robnett in that 09 ride right now, you know, he's the one that's been going down there. Let's go ahead and jump on board with him. We're going to do so here on the broadcast side of things as well. Oh, he got big time loose there.
Yeah, he tried something a little different. And, you know, he gained ground on him and maybe got a little comfortable getting in on entry, but you pay for it there on exit with these cars, man.
I mean, Bryce, you got to see this. I mean, he is literally
sideways home.
Sideways, flicking the wrist. He has, you know, he's one of these guys that can drive turning the steering ratio way up. And as he sends it into the corner, I mean, that car is getting just ugly, doing the J. And he is throwing so much counters into your corner off, but to your point, he is making it work. He's really out there exploring the space right now. And, you know, to your point, you're right. He is closing the gap on Taylor Butcher Benjamin. You know, we came back into a commercial break. It was north of a second, and now under 4/10 of a second. This is starting to dial up the pressure on the 88.
Yeah, you know, I hate to see it because it almost makes me want to start venturing down there, and I do flirt with disaster, but that is asking for disaster down there, man.
That's a one-way ticket to the scrapyard. Well,
Look at this. This is crazy. My car would want to just spin right there. Great car control. Look at, oh, almost lost it there. It was a good save.
great save, and you almost invoked what I like to call the broadcaster's curse.
Yeah. I was trying to hold back, but it's hard not to with these things. You're live in action, so you kind of just go as you go.
You know, Bryce, let me ask you a question. You know, you have a lot of time in this Gen 4 car, a lot more than I do. You know, there's not a lot of banking here at New Hampshire. It's virtually flat. However, if you want to get technical, it's somewhere in the area of like 3 to 3.5 degrees of banking. Now, the inside lane here was repaved at one time a couple of years ago, and that's why you see that darker strip of asphalt, especially into the corners. However, if you venture up to that outside lane, let's say in like a Gen 6 or the next gen car,
Yeah.
if you get your tires offsetting on that, it absolutely can get slick and step out from under you. It'll get loose. Is that similar in this Gen 4 car? If you get your left side, let's say the newer pavement, and your right's on the older stuff, can it become a handful out there for you as well?
It can. I mean, at the end of the day, these cars are a handful no matter where you put them. I personally have not had experience with the amount of seat time I've had in these cars to actually put it here at this track. But I'll tell you something, with the Gen 6 and those next-gen cars, I am running that higher lane. There's you say, really not much banking going on here, but with the amount of banking compared to what you get on the bottom, it's almost 30 degrees what it feels like there at that third lane. It is really a lot more banked up there than it is there at that bottom lane just before that paint. So when I am in those next-gen cars or Gen 6 cars, I really try to stay right above where he's at right there in that third lane, trying to walk it down. If I need more rotation out of the car, I throw the left side down on the top portion of that bottom lane, and it helps rotate the car. But I would never take these cars right here where he's driving. It is absolutely insane. And with these cars being the handful that they are, I can only imagine from what I'm seeing here.
I mean, you got two drivers doing it. Ken Robnett started doing that. You know, it's kind of like the theory, hey, if you can do it, I can do it too, right? Or at least that's what you like to think as a driver. And then Kyle Gray started going down there as well. And, you know, these guys are, like I said, are really exploring the real estate out there on the racetrack. But
And no problem doing it either.
you know, it looks sometimes can be deceiving. You know, as he literally has all four tires there on the exit lane off of pit road. If I tried,
Not too sure what happened there. You know, I really was about to mention something about the downshift in these cars. You get 4 gears to play with. I would never downshift in these cars. I just wouldn't imagine, especially a track here. You would want to, maybe just to get better runoff and maybe get the drive in, but I can't see it with 4 gears. I'd leave it in fourth, and if I got to go to third, then I'm overdriving my car.
and that's a great point, and I agree with you 100% there. And you know, great battle on the racetrack right now. That's you know, Donald Hickson Jr. there in fourth, and Ken Robnett in that 09 ride right there on the racetrack, who currently owns and commands that fourth place position. You know, one driver we haven't seen, you know, go all the way down to the flatlands yet below the apron is Donald Hickson Jr., who also happens to be the biggest mover of the race. He's up 5 positions from where he started. You know, really been really aggressive here in the early going and able to take those positions, you know, at his will out there on the racetrack. Bryce, as you know, in this Gen 4 car, sometimes catching them is one thing, passing them is another, is it's like you almost get stuck in that dirty air wake when you get right on the bumper of that car in front of you. And sometimes it'll either develop a loose or a tight condition. But Hickson Jr. always seems to have the antidote for that, able to make passes out there at will, as he's now up to that third place position.
Looking good out there. He's holding a really steady wheel compared to what we were seeing out of him behind this camp. He was really just wheeling that car, which you got to give it to him running the lane that he's running. Kind of hard to keep a steady wheel, but you know, Hickson Jr. here is actually doing a fantastic job hanging on to this car. You watch him off exit, entry, you're just going to be loose with these cars. It's really hard to get away from that, but you know, he's got good center rotation. What's going on there is he's actually trying to force the car, force it more on the right front there in the center of the corner, and get that drive off a little tighter because you get all the power in these cars, and you really don't want to get on that car and spin out. So when you wiggle it onto the right front the way that he's doing there in the center, look how much more smoother he is getting off these corners.
You know, that's a great point. In fact, you're reading my mind. So what Bryce is talking about here is when he's getting this car into the corner, he's trail braking it a little bit, helping to get that suspension, those tires planted onto the racetrack. And then as he starts to beat that throttle methodically down, he's able to carry that, put the power down, and also, while under control, carry that momentum out towards the wall as well. And that's really given him a great drive off. And he currently has, Bryce, the best tickets in town. Is guess who's going at it again, side by side, door to door? Kyle Gray and TBB once again.
He's in the perfect seat for this here. The crow's nest is what we call it, just watching, waiting for chaos. But he's gaining on him. He's got a really steady handle here on the wheel, and that only tells me this car is really shooting him right now.
Yeah, he is vibing right now inside that race car. And hey, Bryce, it's okay to three-way, as we got a three-way battle here for the lead. Pick your poison. Kyle Gray, Taylor Butcher, Benjamin, and Donald Hickson Jr.
Oh, he's going
Whoa,
for it.
big time.
Wide, here we go.
Sorry to cut you off there. Crossover maneuver. The 8's going to do a little bit of the jet getting into the corner. And now Hickson goes to the apron. He's able to pull alongside of him. Oh, he gets loose off the...
loose.
Hold your breath, folks. That was a controlled drift there. And
That was great.
You know, and I was wondering if he was going to be able to keep that car planted, because, I mean, let's face it, I mean, he threw it in there Bon Jovi style, living out of prayer.
He had to. He had to. In those situations, you really don't want to be easy on that throttle. You want to just send it and hope it sticks. And unfortunately there with these tires, I don't know how long they've had on this run, but, man, that thing did not want to stick with what he was asking from him.
No, it wasn't, you know, and that's the big difference between the car of old and the car of today. You know, this car here is a horsepower and torque monster, you know, north of 900. When you compare that to the next-gen car, I like to call it the lost gen, because we've gotten away from what works, in my opinion. You know, this...
Unfortunately, yes, you are correct, absolutely. It really puts the car into the driver's hands, as opposed to really just strategizing. You can't really strategize with these cars. It's really what you do with your equipment that's going to get you the best about the end of these things.
You're absolutely right. Where I'm going with that is, you mentioned just how much respect you have to have for the loud pedal here. When you put the power down in this race car, you better have it pointed straight. You see what happened there with the 8 when he threw it in the corner like grandma's business after church on Sunday. He tried to get back to the hammer. The back end of that race car said, not today. He had to lift. Where if you're in that Gen 4 or that the current gen car, the next gen car, you could have pretty much dropped the hammer right there and put it to the floor, and the back of that race car is not going to check out to lunch on you like that.
Nope, it won't. You downshift, you get right up off that corner, no problem. You may have to ease up on it on old tires, but nothing like 900 horsepower. You can't compare to what these cars have underneath that hood and what they're putting down to those tires. Yeah,
that's a great point. And what does that do to the racing experience? One, it takes a lot of the skill set out of the driver's hands. You go back, 5-6 years ago, before we started seeing, the horsepower reduction revolution in NASCAR. I mean, there was drivers out there that was just good at driving the race car on the edge. Drivers that really excelled and shined on old tires. And that really magnifies in this race car, especially when those Dr. Feelgoods transition to feel bads, as Hickson there tricks off the corner. Because of the reduced horsepower, we went from a 15-inch to a 16-inch tire. We've increased the amount of contact patch on the Goodyear out there on the racetrack. Hold on to it, buddy, in the 8. As he thought it was Friday night drift night coming off the corner.
Yeah, he's going right to go left, ain't he?
Yes, he is. But that's where I'm going with this conversation. The next gen takes that out of the driver's hands, and that's one less thing that the drivers have to worry about. That's less finesse, less talent that you can showcase out there on the racetrack. I mean, Hickson right now clearly has burned up his stuff, and he is probably sweating to the oldies hanging on to that race car. But in the current modern car, you wouldn't even have to worry about it. It's just another day in the park.
It is, and it really depends on how you do drive your car. I mean, it's everything within the generations we evolve. So how this next gen is driven now is a little different than how it was driven when it first came out. So a little more finesse now with these cars. You can actually get away with dominating a race if you are taking care of your stuff. I mean, any car, even if it's underpowered, you're still going to have to take care of it in one way, shape, or another. And those next gens, they unlike these cars where they're driven on the right rear, these next gens are driven off to the right front. But if you can balance that, like we're seeing Hickson here trying to balance driving off the right front and balancing out, getting off on the right rear, you can really get yourself set up for a long run and actually show some domination if you're careful enough with it.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree more with that statement. Is now Kyler Gray is checked out at Dodge, kind of taking a page out of TBB's playbook in the first 50 laps of this race, as he now has the biggest lead on the evening at a 1.4-second advantage over this heated battle between the 8 and the 88. And a little DRL history for you. Taylor Butcher Benjamin drove that 8 machine the past 2 seasons here. Oh,
okay. That's why that paint scheme looks very familiar. Okay,
exactly.
I remember now.
So Taylor Butcher Benjamin is the second all-time winningest driver in DRL. However, he did that in the 8 machine, much like Dale Earnhardt Jr., who went from the 8 to the 88, now pilots Donald Hickson Jr. So it's, there's also a great battle on the racetrack, but also a lot of history between those two numbers here in DRL as well, as they currently run in that second, third place position. A few moments ago, Bryce, you asked me about tires and how long they've been out there for. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that graphic up there on the broadcast so everyone can follow along at home. And right now, virtually everyone inside the top 7. So from your leader, Gray, all the way back to James Pandolf, who currently resides in that 7th place position, everyone currently has 44 laps on those tires. So
wow. That's a good bit of rubber getting burnt off on the track here. And I'm just curious about how much longer they have on these tires before we start seeing pit stops.
Whoa! Well, I'll tell you what, one person right now that has to be screaming for a caution right now has to be Donald Hickson Jr. As he is skating, sliding, holding.
This 9 car. Where did he find that grip? He was falling off there. There was 20 laps ago, and now look at him getting some speed back.
Well, that just goes to show you how good new shoes improve the balance, the bite, and drive off, as he looks like he's got 1,000 horsepower and all-wheel drive underneath the body of that 9 right now, as he was just down pit road moments ago. So that's the difference of new shoes out there on the racetrack. In fact, he was fighting for his life there, trying to stay on the lead lap. However, Kyle Gray able to get around him. But something tells me, Bryce, he's probably not going to be off the lead pace for very long, as your leader currently now working lap 46 on those current pair of shoes on that Chevrolet Impala, who currently carries the torch here. And caution out on the racetrack. Are you kidding me? A very rare caution here in the Dynasty Racing League.
Yeah, I'm looking around on the track for it. I don't see where it's coming from. I know we don't run stage breaks out here, so curious to see where that came from.
Well, timing and scoring right now is pinpointing Mark Royce may have had a problem out there on the racetrack. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Redline Racing Network instant replay, and he's going to be piloting that number 50 machine. And as we go ahead and cue playback, he sails it into probably the middle of the...
Here you see it there, just loses it.
He tried to give it too much gusto off the corner, and the back end broke free, and around it went. Just like you were talking about.
To do with these cars. Oh, yeah.
Just like you were talking about earlier. If you give it just a little too much, there's this race car very unforgiving, and folks, you see what happened right there in the 50. The good news is, Bryce, the silver lining, no other race cars involved in this incident. It's a single car spin. And for drivers like Donald Hickson Jr., Christmas just came early. That car was a wicked banshee out there. He was probably sweating stress levels cranked up inside of the cockpit of that Budweiser machine, trying to hold on. And like I said, gets a gift here as caution now being displayed here on the racetrack.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my eyes on this in here. I really hope that he takes what he learned from that last run. He can, he did a great job there. I think taking care of his stuff, but I think towards the end where he saw he was making up that time, he was getting a little excited there in the seat and was getting on the gas a little sooner than he probably should have been, and maybe sending in a little deeper. But you would towards the end of the run, you see you're starting to catch the guys, and you feel, maybe I got enough rubber, so he starts settling in. So hopefully you can find that balance and make something happen here. We'll keep an eye on him.
Talking about that balance, you mentioned him, abusing those tires a little bit prematurely, burning them up. So a lot of race car drivers, especially the ones being featured here tonight, they're going to take that information and they're going to apply what they learned out there on the racetrack. To your point, back that corner up a little bit more, be patient and disciplined, wait on that throttle to try to get some more longevity out of these set of Goodyear Eagles for the next run about to take place here on the racetrack.
Yeah, for sure, and that's the benefit here every time you go and you do a pit cycle is you take what you learned that first run and see what you can do to apply something a little different that next run, and hopefully you got another run left that you can go ahead and take those two and make something out of it.
Absolutely. As that iRacing.com pace car currently leads the charge here in the Northeast, but not for long, as we're going to kick him back down pit road. And Bryce, look who's going to lead him back to green. It's the faster pastor. Stoney Benfield puts it through the floorboards, climbs back up the H pattern. As that restart just got waved off.
Back out.
Yeah, green heads up there. Either race control didn't like the way those cars were lined up, or
seemed to be that. It looked like everybody really wasn't gathered up completely there, so we'll re-rack them, get a cleaner restart for y'all.
Yeah, one thing when we have time to do it, Bryce, is, race control, they don't get enough love, they don't get enough credit for just how tough and stressful that job can be at times out here in competition. And you're absolutely right. They didn't like the way something was shuffled or sorted there, so we're going to go ahead and wave off the restart. That's going to kick that Mustang back out to the front of the field. But as I mentioned moments before, I thought we were going back to green. Stoney Benfield, the faster pastor, always has a great following. Support the cause here in the YouTube.com live chat. Here is your man, the faster pastor, as we come off of turn number 4. Bryce, take us back to green.
Yeah, it's a great restart we got there from that 75 car. Nice to have race control out here as we get a really deep drive in here by that 8 car. Does he stick it? Got that momentum there on the outside here from the 75 side by side. See what happens here going into 3-4.
Side by side, 5 into the 08 ride, and he took it all the way down deep onto the
Still
apron.
sending it in deep there, yeah.
He said, hey, I don't care about tires right now. I want to go out there and I want this lead, as it's a John Ford special. Past the start-finish line, and they're going to sling it for everything they got back into the 1 and 2 complex.
He might get it here. It's a battle for clean air. These guys are going to fight for it. Very close, very close. Very generous of him in that 75 car to let him have that.
You said very close, very generous, and that really describes, Stoney Benfield. He's a seasoned veteran. It takes a lot of discipline in that position when you're battling for the lead to let that other car go, knowing that there's still north of 60 laps remaining in this race, and how important and how critical those tires are. And
exactly.
Stoney let him go there, but now finds himself under siege now is Taylor Butcher Benjamin, lurking not far off of that Ford EcoBoost.
Yeah, sitting in that 75 car right now, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I got beat. Now what's my next best option? Let's try to save ourselves here. If we're going to get another battle spot from us, we're gonna go ahead and negotiate that, whether or not this guy wants to fight hard, or am I going to just let him have it. You got to make that decision and really take care of yourself, especially early on when you're talking about running the tires off. You got to choose when to run it. I think early on you want to get that clean air, but once that clean air is settled, really try to take care of yourself and don't do unnecessary battles with anybody else.
Ooh, I'll tell you what, Stoney almost had that car pointed in the wrong direction there as he tried to put the power back down, and that back end decided we're starting to check out on him. Quickly able to reel that car back in.
Good line right there. I like that line from that 8 car. You saw how he went in through the center a little bit lower than on the center, driving down, grabbing that paint off exit. That's going to be a really clean line if you keep consecutive on that.
And you can tell by the hash marks out there on the racetrack, that was a super clean line and able to arc it back in all the way down to that white line.
Both ends of the racetrack. Yep.
And I'll tell you what, that translates. His last time by, Bryce, he just ran a 30.57 compared to Stoney's 30.61 and Taylor Butcher Benjamin's 30.62. And you can see how he is starting to open up a marginal gap between himself and the top 3 right now. And if you're Donald Hickson Jr., you love looking up in your mirror and seeing a heated battle for positions just behind you. Why is that? Because you're not going to be able to run those optimal lap times when you're dogfighting out there, especially too wide. That's going to allow him to get some breathing room and open up some more real estate.
For sure. I mean, you know, you're going to see that right now with the 8 car. He's going to continue to take off. It's really difficult, especially young in the game, when you're back there battling it out, trying to keep your racing line. I mean, you could be old in the game too and still struggle with it, but usually the veterans have a little easier time running that line, that optimal racing line, even in traffic. But, you know, with Hickson here being out in the lead, he's got nothing to focus on but to run his line as consistent as possible each and every lap, get those tires molded onto that track the way that they feel comfortable with, and he keeps riding the way he's riding. He makes sure that
or at least that's what he wants to do, right? In theory, Hickson just wants to check out and dodge and leave these guys, in his proverbial dust, if you will. You know, you mentioned this track in that rubber being laid down on the racetrack over the course of these 150 laps. When that rubber gets put into the racetrack, how is that going to translate and change the way this car handles, especially through the corners?
You know, I'll tell you what, with the new update, they just came out putting marbles down on the track. It's really changed a lot. It really is. I think you're going to see that lane start to widen out, depending on where these drivers are going to drive at. You know, you get into those marbles anywhere on this racetrack, it's going to feel like you have no tire left on that car because you're shooting straight up the track. So, you know, it is ideal to watch and see on the track, if you will be able to visually see that rubber getting laid down in the corners, and really try to keep the car, more specifically the rear end, in that traction, so that when you get on the gas, you actually get something stick rather than sitting on the rear, getting out of the corner.
And I'll tell you what, Bryce, just as you said that, you are a race whisperer. You can see the lane, the preferred line starting to widen out, especially at corner entry. We go back about 30, 40 laps ago, these guys were eating on the bottom. They were sending it in on the apron. Now they're starting to send it into the middle of the high groove and then arc it down to the bottom on corner exit. That's a great point. You can see that starting to happen out there on the racetrack as we now work lap 96 out of the scheduled 150 right here on Redline Racing Network. Let's go ahead and run through the field under green flag conditions. Bryce and I have been talking about him a lot, doing a fantastic job here, especially in the middle part of this race. Donald Hickson Jr. carries the torch, currently scored P1 on that leader. The faster pastor, Stoney Benfield currently up 4 positions, currently occupies that second place position. On the series' second all-time most winningest driver, Taylor Butcher Benjamin, locks in that 3rd place. Currently in that 4th place position, the 42 of Gary Farnsworth Jr., seasoned veteran here, is in a side-by-side battle with the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Kyle Gray, who currently has that 5th place position, but he's going for more. Mad Max across the border, across Canada, and Quebec in that EA Sports throwback 96 machine, has silently and methodically worked his way up to 6 good for 4 positions. A very similar story for Mark Royce, who's entrenched himself in 7th. Brandon Groby in that Milwaukee Bulls machine currently holds that 8th place position, while Dave Acacia, longtime veteran of the series, currently resides in 9th, while Ken Robnett in the 09 Tops machine has lost a step. Something is not vibing in his race car the way that it was is about 50 laps ago, was battling for the lead here on Redline Racing Network. And race fans, while he quickly approached lap 100, We're going to step aside for the final time, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back with continuous coverage of the checkered flag here momentarily. Race fans, good evening and welcome back to Redline Racing Network as you currently rejoin now uninterrupted conclusive coverage all the way to the checkered flag as we're in the middle of a thriller here for the lead. Matt Metler and Bryce B up at the Tony Trapassa Memorial booth. And Bryce, this has been a high-octane roller coaster ride since the drop of the green flag. Donald Hickson Jr. continues to be on another planet as he's almost 2 seconds to the good over Kyle Gray and Stoney Benfield. However, that's where the battle gets good out there on the racetrack, is Stoney currently under siege right now from TBB, and don't look now, but that Richard Petty inspired 42 is in close proximity as well, as they're heating it up for third, fourth, and fifth.
Oh yeah, I mean, we go back to Hickson here, and what did I tell you about running that line as he tried something a little different there as I speak? He's running the same line lap after lap, corner after corner, man, and it is just showing he is taking off for that very reason alone, really not giving the car anything unpredictable, and the car really just knows what he's going to give it, and that's what's really making this run so phenomenal by him.
Donald Hickson Jr. out of Hamilton. He's the man with the plan here tonight in New Hampshire, trying to bring home that Lobby the Lobster poster, or trophy. Also, poster perfect run from him tonight as well. You know, Bryce, about the trophy here, some of these drivers can't stand it. They actually present you a live, fresh lobster. And I'll tell you what, to your point, the way that Hickson is out there driving right now is he is backed out to using all of that racetrack on the apron on entry as we go on board with him. And you're right, he is painting perfect laps out there, hitting his mark each and every time he completes a circuit around this place.
Yeah, you know, it does make me wonder if they're getting tight here on entry or maybe through the center to why they would want to get to the bottom, because, you know, I get you want to try to cover as much ground as you can and try to shorten up this racetrack, but, you know, I really don't see it any bit, that's being necessary for him to be doing that. It seems like his line is working just fine for him. I don't see any reason to be doing that. Maybe mirror driving, trying to see if maybe he's seeing that guy catching him. He's just going to try to run that line. Maybe he's seeing he can't found something. I think at this point, just keep running your line, keep your nose forward, and really just keep doing what you're doing, because it's going.
Well, I'll tell you what, he doesn't have to worry about mirror driving right now, because that real estate, that distance between first and second, continues to grow at an alarming rate. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and throw up the time delta, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and you can see how it has grown from 1.79 seconds now to almost 2 seconds. If you're going to get technical, it's 1.971 as Hickson continues to be the fastest car out there on the racetrack, and he is throwing down some lasers right now at 31.39 the last time by. The second fastest driver out there currently finds himself in third place, the faster pastor, Stoney Benfield.
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead and just watch the lines. It really just show where on this racetrack is the fastest way around. You know, I'm sitting there watching Hickson on board, now I'm watching Stoney, and they're both running similar lines, keeping that car set up there in the middle and driving off towards the bottom. But, you know, getting on the bottom of the racetrack as I'm watching there in second place, you know, I'm noticing that he's got that car down on the apron, and, you know, it's really showing he's really fighting that car more than these other two.
Speaking of fighting the car, that Tops machine has had enough of that loose condition out there on the racetrack as he's down for potentially his money stop out there on the racetrack. For Dr. Feelgood's two cans of Sunoco Racing Fuel and Ken Robnet back out there on the racetrack. And Bryce, this could be a situation where it's come one, come all. One car comes down pit road. You give up so
as
much.
We see.
Bingo. Hit the nail right on the head. As you see now, your leader, Kyle Gray, comes down pit road. That's going to also bring down Brandon Broby in the Milwaukee Tools 45 ride. Stoney Benfield and Mad Max going to take over the top two spots. But this is where Stoney and his crew need to be on their game. They don't want to stay out there too long and give up that precious time to Kyle Gray, who's going to be on those fresh set of shoes.
You know, you're right, and it can't go either way. You know, it depends on how much longer they have in that run for these Dr. Feelgood. You know, it seems that when you stay out longer, you're going to have more tire there towards the end of your run, so that may benefit you there. But, you know, definitely what you're saying is you don't want to stay out too long and lose that momentum that these guys are gaining right now, short pitting.
and always a game of strategy here, especially in this Gen 4 car. And very cautions here are a rarity in this league. I was shocked to see 2 here tonight as we average just about 1.64 cautions a race. You know, with that
Crazy to see.
Crazy to see. But the point being is you really have to execute on pit road. When you're not coming down and executing on pit road under caution, those green flag pit stops really maximize just how effective you have to be. You have to be aggressive. You have to attack pit road, but you can't step over the line too far because you get caught speeding. It is absolutely game over as my son is having a hissy fit knowing that Stony Bedfield has to give up the lead and come down pit road.
Oh, yeah. So as we see that 78 car going back to the bottom of that racetrack, I'm really curious to see if it's helping them there on the long run. By all means, keep doing what you're doing. But, you know, I'll be honest, just watching the onboard footage, it looks from my hands that I'd be fighting that car more down there than I would be where those leaders were running there towards the top.
100% for certain, but for whatever reason, I mean, he has found something that is working for him, either that fits his driving style or with this current setup. You know, when you add in the current track temperature and how much rubber has been put down there on the racing surface, it is just working for him right now. He has found some mojo, and if it, you know what, Bryce, if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Don't fix it. You're right. And like you said, it is based off your driving style. You know, there's some tracks where I'm the only guy at the top running the wall because it's my driving style. And then there's other tracks where, you know, I do run the bottom and everybody wants to run the top. So it really depends on your driving style, how you feel your track, how your car is going to handle that track better.
Yeah, well said. And you know what? I agree with your logic there. You know, when I'm running, you know, a piece of the racetrack that no one else is, I feel like sometimes that can give you an advantage, the upper hand, you know, where that piece of real estate isn't going to take rubber as fast when you only have one car really running that high side of the racetrack versus 20, 30 competitors running that same line. You're going to have less turbulent air up there as well. And hey, that just means someone else, especially if you're fast, they're going to have to try and do something they haven't done all race, and that's go up there and replicate what you're doing. So I like the advantages there versus the disadvantages when you're running somewhere that a lot of other competitors ain't, and you're making it work at the same time for you.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the benefit that we have here with Kyle Graves, he is not the only one running down there, so it's not just his rubber getting laid down, but 2, 3, maybe even 4 other cars that I've seen get down to the bottom of that racetrack.
Yeah, and the other thing is, too, this also, and we see this in real life, one driver figures something else, and it's come one, come all. Kyle Grace started doing it. Now you see Donald Hickson Jr. down there, 09 Ken Robinette, and who knows? We still have 25 laps to go. We may see some more first-timers down there before the checkered flag flies.
Yep, as we see our leader here, and that EA Sports, that's a throwback game right there, very nostalgic to look at. He's running that line, man. That's the line. I think that's the line I'm sticking with if I'm out here on the racetrack today. It is that middle line. You know, like I was saying, you don't have much banking there. You were saying early on, you don't have much banking at this track, but right there in the middle where he's at, you got that second lane, a little more banked than, for sure, a lot more banked than the bottom, but then, you know, right above it, right there at the bottom of 3, it is banked just a little more. If you're actually able to get a really good drive-through on entry, center, and then by drive-off, you can wrap that bottom. That's money.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mad Max right now, he has been Mr. Consistent in this series as far as the amount of starts go in this winter series. He has not missed a race. And tonight, Bryce, without question, has been the best performance he's had out of that throwback EA Sports machine out there on the racetrack. Last time down pit road on lap 83, no tires, no problem, as he has north of an 8-second lead over Donald Hickson Jr. Can he possibly steal one here as there's just 25 laps on the board?
Yeah, and you know, you got to compare the lap times and wonder if what he's doing is the right move, but I don't see him fighting this race car. It really seems like he's enjoying the way that thing is handling for him, and I love to see it. I love to see the fact that you can go on a long run here and not have that car jumping out from your hands. So I say keep doing what you're doing out there, Mad Matt.
And the more I think about this, Bryce, I think this was a calculated, pre-planned decision from him out of the Dodge camp. I think these guys had a plan, and if they got into a late race situation where they could short pit, they went out there on the racetrack with the understanding, hey, we're going to run long, so we're not going to go out there and try to set full speeds each and every lap. We want to get maximum duration out of these Goodyear Eagles on the race car, and his lap times are reflecting that. He's only the fastest lap he has ran over this stint out there on the racetrack has been a 31.63. As you know, some of the drivers have been in the 31.30 ranges, but he is still turning 31.86s out there with all those laps on the tires. Donald Hickson Jr. has trimmed some of the fat off as he's north of 5.6 seconds. So this is going to be one of those races perhaps where it comes down to the wire, Bryce. You're going to have the old versus new. But Donald Hickson is going to have to light the wick in that Saturn V rocket strapped to the back of that Budweiser 8. And he's going to have to abuse those tires. When he gets there, is he going to have enough left to pass Mad Max for the lead? Or will Steady Eddie punch his ticket into victory lane? You got to stick with us right here on Redline Racing Network to find out. As I think Bryce may have had to step away there for a moment. Again, want to thank him for joining me up here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth. Hopefully we'll be able to resume coverage with him momentarily here. As you see, the 8th there of Hickson kind of gets a little squirrely getting off the corner there. As he's really going to have to push this race car beyond the limits of where it's comfortable if he wants to go up there and run the 96 down.
He's going to push it. Sorry about that. Thought I did. Might have lost you there for a second, but I'm here. And I was still watching. It looks like we're going to take a pit stop here for that 96 car. I applaud him for what he did there. Like you said, very consistent with his lap times. And it's a beautiful thing here about these races. You can't really prepare. You can prepare, but you can't plan how these races are going to go out. So every strategy is different. It may work in your favor.
You're absolutely right. And, I know being up here in the broadcast booth, we're not supposed to be biased or, have favorites, but my heart right now broken for Mad Max. I was hoping he was going to have enough go fast left in that tank to get him to the checkered flag. However, like you said, sometimes those strategies, as good as they may be, sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and he has to send it down pit road. Great execution there, getting it done in the trenches, so he's already down and away. However, that's going to cycle the lead back to the 8 of Donald Hickson Jr., and it looks like he's going to have about a 2.2 second advantage over Kyle Gray. What did you see there, Bryce?
But what I'm seeing out of him, he's gotten his lead back, and what he's doing is he's found his line, he's found his groove, and what he's doing is trying to ask more out of that groove that car is willing to take. I say just be patient with it, let that car do its thing, but, I've been in that position too. You just want to stretch that lead. Do away with your tires. As long as you can get far enough, you just want to get to that check flag as quickly as possible.
That's certainly what he is doing right now. In fact, it's probably just the opposite. It probably feels like these laps are taking forever inside the cockpit of that 8 machine. The last thing Hickson right now wants to see is a caution flag. I can promise you that would make him madder than a Keebler elf that got demoted to Fudgepacker. Should he see a caution flag as he almost drifts it into the corner here again? We have seen that car on the edge over the course of the races.
He's got to take care of this car. We can't be doing that. You're talking about maybe getting a caution. He may be the cause of the caution. They just take it easy, young buck. Keep doing your line. You're good. You got a long and left lead here from second place. He's reeling you in, but he's the one reeling you in based off your mistakes. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep your head down. Run your line. That's all you got to do.
I almost feel like I invoked the broadcaster's curse there. Bryce, you don't know this, but sometimes I start talking about a driver and right on command, doomsday strikes, and that race car is ready for the scrapyard. That power slide there cost him over a second of real estate out there on the racetrack. Now Kyle Gray, he's under a second. That has just remotivated him. It has relit the wick inside the cockpit of that race car. And don't look now, that Mad Max machine out there on a tear as well.
And that's exactly what was going to bring me up to that next point is, yes, he may have lost that ground, but look who he's got to battle getting back to it.
And that's why those costly mistakes out there on the racetrack, regardless of how much distance, how much, of that window net of safety you think you may have, it's never over till it's over, is it, Bryce?
Nope, never over till it's over. And over the time of my career, I've noticed that the more patient I am with my race car, the faster I end up going. And it's those times where you try to drive more than your race car is ready to give you, to where you're doing what we just saw there, where you start to lose the race car. Now you just gained all that time to just lose it that very next lap.
Let me ask you a question here, Bryce. Is this a racetrack, where the saying, where the slogan goes, slower is faster?
Slower is faster here at this racetrack. I mean, it really depends on how you want to set your cars balanced up for your long run. But yes, ideally, slower than what you anticipate that you can do. You're not running qualifying laps when you're on a race pace. You're not. And this racetrack, especially if you're running a qualifying pace, trying to make lap time each and every lap, you are just going to hurt yourself up, especially on the long run. So ideally, what you want to do is, yes, get in there deep, try to drive off aggressive, but really try to back it up a few, just to take care of yourself.
Well, I'll tell you what, Donald Hickson must be listening to the broadcast right now, because clearly he used and abused that right rear as he almost lost that race car not once but twice over the course of the lap. He has backed up the entry on that race car slower than faster, and he is now picked up his lap times by almost 0.2 of a second over the last 4 laps. Now that interval is going back in his direction almost 2 seconds. Proof is in the pudding. Textbook right here. Slower is faster as at New Hampshire is the 8 now continues to pull away from Kyle Green.
Yep, going back to that racing line, that is iconic, and I am absolutely loving that line that he's taken. I just hope that he keeps running that line and really just take what you can out of that car. Don't ask too much from it. It's real easy. He knows he's got a race-winning car here, but let's not try to tear that thing apart. Get more than what you can out of it. As we see this 96 car getting on his tail, when it comes to it, just let him go. This guy's got the fresher tires. Let him have it.
You're reading my mind. The last thing you want to do is get caught up in a calamity here with a lap car on fresh shoes. To your point, when he catches you, move out of the way, let him go. You have 1.5 seconds between yourself and the closest competition on the same lap that you are. But I think out of respect here, I think Mad Max has dialed it back just a little bit as we're now under 8 laps to go. He does not want to impact the outcome of this race, and that right there is an iRacing seasoned veteran move.
It is, and that's the fun part about racing, right, is that you have a driver that that just got fresh tires, and he's sitting there behind you, and you're trying to tell yourself, okay, I can let him pass, but I don't want to lose too much time letting him pass me. And if I do let him pass me, now do I have to worry about his car being slower than my car, and once those tires even out, now I got to pass him back, and now I just lost all that time that I could have already had. So the goal here is to just race your car. If he gets in a position where you got to fight for it, make that judgment call. But it's only until you're in that moment that you can make that split-second decision.
Right, and I think as quick as we've seen that 96 catch the 8, I really think he's just pedaling it a little bit. Perhaps the 8 here may let him on by. Oh, the 8 just did the jig coming off the corner here. That's the last thing you want to see is 6 laps currently on the board. Bryce, next time by, handshake lap goes in the air, just going to be 5 remaining at the line.
Yeah, I think what's happening here is, he sees he's got that checker flag in the distance, and he sees he's getting all the rotation you can get out of the car. That's the fun part about it, is when you see your car's really handling well for you, especially going in the looser side. I like a loose race car. When it's not tight, man, I'm going to try to ask everything I can out of that car, and I really think he's just trying to send it out of those corners, get to the finish line as quick as possible.
And I'll tell you what, he said getting that ask out of the race car as we send it now on board with the leader. That's exactly what he's doing. He take a look at that tachometer, folks, just underneath the steering wheel, you can see how it's just steady and evenly climbing as he's going down the straightaways. And you can see how much he's backing up the corner as those RPMs fall off. And he is just gingerly feeding throttle here. He's going to lift right there at about the 300-yard marker into the corner, not trying to make any mistakes here.
Look at that line. Beautiful line. I don't mean to cut you off. I had to call it while I'm sitting on board with him there. Watch how he gets in on the entry. He really doesn't ask too much of it, but he's in a position where he can ask a little more rather than sitting on the bottom. So right there, that's the line I would prefer right there, and then just drive it down to the paint and get that thing launched off there. But, you know, with these cars being as loose as they are, it's really put us in danger getting to the bottom there, but he's making it work.
He's making it work, and he's not, I wouldn't say aggressively sending it to the bottom, kind of a late apex here to your point. A little countersteer, but this car naturally has some offset in it. You know, naturally has an offset in it, as we're now just 3 laps remaining as we widen things back out as we get ready to come to the checkered flag here on Redline Racing Network.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a performance out of each and every one of these drivers. Hickson has been the class of the field here. He's been taking care of his stuff. Asking a little more than he probably could have, and he should have, but, you know, he's gotten away with a lot here, and he's doing very well. He's got to bring this thing home now.
2 laps remaining from the Budweiser number 8 machine, the most winningest driver on the season. As we send it up to the northeast where clam chowders and portable heaters right now are popular, Hickson looking to add Lobby the Lobster to his trophy case as he comes off and turns 4. 1 more lap remaining as he barrels down the back stretch or the front stretch for the final time. He's going to send it gently into the turns 1 and 2 complex. He's going to swing out wide, now back down low as he picks up the throttle.
Beautiful line.
Beautiful line as he salutes the fans in the stands, gives the salute to the guys at the RV park. Into the 3 and 4 for the final time now. No mistakes here. Steady Eddie as she goes. Off at turn number 4, he can see Barney at the checkered flag stands, and Donald Hickson Jr. is going to dial up an iconic performance here at the flat track, and he's going to bag one here on Redline Racing Network. Bryce, he's your winner. Kyle Gray, Taylor Butcher Benjamin round out your top 3.
It was a great performance there. Each and every one of these drivers definitely gave me a show to watch. Just watching all the different lines and the aggression and conservativeness. I mean, we saw everything. You know, these guys really handled this track well. They handled each other well and really gave us a show to watch here tonight.
Absolutely did. I mean, from the drop of the checkered flag, it is always a high-octane thriller as the 8's going to burn the house down. And Bryce, to your point about saving tires, you don't need them anymore, so why not get all the good out of them?
Burn them off. That's what you got to do now. At your own strike on the racetrack. Let him have it, 8.
I'll tell you what, he's literally giving Barney a smoke show, as he's going to park it there at the start-finish line. You know, shades of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 2004 campaign. You know, that's what I think about when I watch Donald Hickson Jr. over the course of this winter season. He has been just that good. And Bryce, I don't care if it's a 1.5 mile, a super speedway, a road course, a flat track. I mean, he has been on it each and every week. And yet another win. And sometimes when that momentum's on your side, it's hard to slow that freight train down. As he's your winner here tonight. Once again on Redline Racing Network. Going to give these drivers a moment to celebrate with their teams. Then, as always, you'll hear from our top 3 right up here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth. So it looks like Donald Hickson Jr. is standing by. So let's go ahead and bring him up top here. Donald Hickson Jr., Matt and Bryce up in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth. You got a copy there, boss?
Sir, I do.
I'll tell you what, Donald, I was just saying moments ago, you remind me of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 2004 campaign in this 8 machine, as it doesn't seem like anything is able to stop you. Doesn't matter what type of track we're on here at a very unique racetrack up here in New Hampshire. Hardly any banking in the corners. You're down there on the apron in the middle, using the high side of the racetrack. It looks like you were in drift competition out there at times. You were hanging onto that race car, and once again, another walk-off victory for you. Congratulations. How were you able to make it look so easy out there tonight?
Well, I gotta tell you that this track's actually pretty. It's more difficult than I expected. I actually don't have a ton of time on here compared to like last week, but I just kind of was trying to point the car straight as best I could, so when I did get on the gas, it didn't spin out, because it's very easy to do. It seems like with this combo, since there's like a serious lack of banking. I was just trying to take care of my car and not really make any egregious moves, not make mistakes, things like that. Just try to keep my nose clean, and it just kind of came to me.
You mentioned how light this race car was without having the banking. You know, we've seen you a couple times here, especially, with just, under 6 laps to go, where that back end decided to check out on you. Just how easy was it to have that back end want to come around on you?
Oh, yeah, at the end, I was hoping nobody saw that. Yeah, when that happened, I thought I was in trouble, honestly. But yeah, you have to like feed the throttle. It's like an eggshell. You can't stab it, or it's just gonna loop around it. As you saw, it tried a couple times to come around on me, and I thought Kyle was gonna get to me after that, because Kyle honestly is one of the quicker people. I was surprised he pitted that second time for damage, because I think he had the pace to win. But nonetheless, it's so hard to keep the power down on this car, but it looks fun.
I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned there with 6 laps to go, hey, mistakes no one's going to worry about that, especially when you win the race, buddy. So don't even worry about that. After.
Oh, I was playing that now.
Oh, I know. After that happened, though, were you able to widen things back out? It looked like you started backing up the corners a little bit just to give you a little sense of security on entry, and it really seemed to kick up your lap times a little bit there.
Yeah, honestly, once I had that moment, I kind of had to tell myself to cool out a little bit. Don't try not to let it happen again, for one, but two, just understand that I still had a bit of a cushion. I just needed to do what I've been doing the whole race, not charge the corner, like you said, kind of back the corner up a little bit to give me some security. And really, Kyle had to run me down, so I was just trying to drive as hard as I needed to.
I'll tell you what, yourself and Kyle have had some thrilling performances here tonight. I thought we were going to get another battle between you two, but you had other plans as you were able to open the distance, the real estate up here, coming to the checkered flag. Bryce, anything you got for Donald before we cut him loose?
Yeah, absolutely great driving. Yes, I saw out there from you the line that you were making work there, lap after lap, corner after corner. I was telling them in the booth, telling the fans out there, just watch. He keeps running that line, he's going to pull away. He did. He kept pulling away. He kept running that line. The consistency showed. And then we saw you're getting a little too carried away with it, asking a little more from it. And it showed. You got a little loose there, but it happens. You get a fast race car, you find that line, you just want to ask a little more from it. But you did a hell of a job out there, and it paid off. And I was glad to see you pull this one in tonight.
Appreciate that, Bryce. I was with Kyle a lot, even in official series, so I knew I had some competition. Same with Ken. And obviously, Taylor was really tough, too, as well.
Yeah, a good group of guys there put on a show for us tonight.
And then, Donald, as we always do, before I cut you loose, man, who do you want to thank? Who helps you get it done on the Budweiser 8?
First of all, the league itself for putting it on. It's my favorite car, as I've said numerous times before. The broadcast for putting it on, covering the race really well. I've actually come back and watched them over like afterwards too, it's just to see it from a different perspective. It's really cool. It's like a viewer's perspective as well, to watch this compared to like other broadcasts. So I really enjoyed it, specifically from you guys as well. All the drivers too. Everyone was giving me a lot of room. Everyone was finding their P's and Q's, not doing anything egregious. Just, yeah, I'm having fun.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Hickson Jr. having fun, and he had the Clydesdales turned up to 1,000 underneath the hood of that Budweiser machine as he uncorks another win here in the Dynasty Racing League. Thanks for joining me up here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth, bud.
Thanks, man. You guys have a good night.
You too. Good racing.
Sir.
We'll go ahead and put you back down in the broadcast waiting room as we now continue on with post-race interviews. Bryce joining us now in the booth. He's with you, Kyle Gray. Welcome up top, my friend.
How you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing fantastic after watching you guys put on a heck of a show out there on the racetrack. Kyle, I gotta ask you, when you were going down low, eating on the apron, you were blowing my mind. How were you able to make that work over the course of this race tonight? Every time I watched you do it, my jaw would just hit the floor.
Just a lot of practice. I was just seeing where I could get a good run off the corner. Just running the high line was eating out my right front, but it's got to take a lot of practice and patience, and make it work.
Yeah, you certainly did make it work. If I tried to do that, I would have stuffed that car like Santa down the chimney going into the corner. Probably the first time, guaranteed, it would have been ready for the scrapyard. But you're a heck of a wheelman as always. Talk to me about that battle on the racetrack with time between yourself and Donald Hickson. What was that like going up against him here over the course of this race?
We race each other a lot, official side of it. Um, so he had a pace. I was trying to run him down, push it a little bit, use up my tires, but I had a pit. I had some damage and still had damage. So, but if I didn't pit, I probably could have held on, but he was catching me on the straightaway. So it is what it is, and we'll go on to next week.
You know, it's unfortunate you had that damage on the race car. As Donald Hickson said, he thought this was your race to win. However, that damage may have been the difference tonight. Is there anything you think you could have done different there in the closing laps? Or in your opinion, did the best car win at the end?
I pitted a lap after Donald, so I was trying to be one lap ahead, fresher tires on him, but he gained a second on me, so I had to use it up to pretty much equalize what I was trying to strategize. And but congrats to him. We race each other a lot, and um, go on the next week.
Absolutely. You got momentum on your side as well. And in fact, you've had that over the course of the Winter Series more oftentimes than not, as you're always a force to be reckoned with out on the racetrack. And Kyle, before I cut you loose to go celebrate with your team once again, who do you want to thank who helps you get it done on the 78?
Just my wife letting me have the time to do it, and Rob Ned, and he helps me, and I help him too, and we just click, and there he goes.
And that's exactly what Kyle Gray did. He went and took off. He really explored the space out there, used every potential piece of real estate to make the broadcast extra exciting tonight. Comes up just a little bit short with the second place thriller. Thanks for joining me up here in the Tony Trapasso Memorial booth, bud.
Thank you.
Put you back down in the broadcast waiting room. And I don't think Taylor Butcher Benjamin is going to be available for comment this evening. Unfortunate, as I always like speaking with him. However, I do not see him in the broadcast waiting room. So we'll wrap up this portion of the broadcast. And Bryce, I got to tell you, man, for your first ever official broadcast, man, you absolutely killed it tonight. What did you think of the racing we experienced here this evening?
Oh, it was a lot of fun to call. I mean, I almost had just as much fun calling it as I would have been in that race car. It's a lot easier being up here than it is down there. You really have a lot less to worry about. A lot less money on the line, too, with a banged-up race car at the end of these things. But, at the end of the day, I had a good time. I think that show right there was just enough for me to enjoy calling it. And, man, I was really fortunate to be here. Thank you for having me up here and sharing this time with y'all.
Hey, I appreciate you seizing the opportunity and jumping up here with me in the booth. It was a pleasure to have you up here. Perhaps next week we'll see you in the 5 ride out on the racetrack, as you're always fun to watch out there in DRL competition.
Yes, sir. Actually, we're gonna see if we can make some time for it.
Well, absolutely. You heard it right here, folks. Perhaps we'll see him shift gears next week back to the racetrack. We'll have to see what Bryce has in store, but no, nonetheless, absolutely awesome up here in the broadcast booth, and I cannot thank him enough. It unfortunately has come to that point in time of the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, where all good things must come to an end. Cannot thank all the drivers, partners, sponsors, Black Magic, Team Watson Racing Setups, and most of all, you loyal fans each and every week for showing up and supporting the drivers here in the series. Like, share, subscribe, smash the like button, ring the bell. That way you'll get notified each and every time the DRL Winter Series is live in prime time right here on Redline Racing Network. And as the late, great Tony Trapasso used to say, as you walk down the road of life this week, do us all a favor. Don't play in traffic, and we'll see you next time right here on Redline Racing Network. I love it.